equals. First strike. The UES Defiant hung motionless against the backdrop of New Eden's rings, its graphene diamond hull absorbing virtually all electromagnetic radiation. Captain Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with practiced calm, though her augmented nervous system was already preparing her body for combat. Multiple signatures emerging from FTL, Captain. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his sensor station. Configuration matches nothing in our database. They're big, really big. The alien vessels materialize like obsidian daggers cutting through space-time. Their hulls seem to drink in starlight, making them appear as voids against the system's stellar backdrop. Sarah counted 12 ships, each easily twice the size of the Defiant. They're approaching the colony, her XO, Commander James Webb, noted grimly. New Eden was humanity's furthest settlement, home to 2 million civilians who had come seeking a fresh start among the stars. Sarah nodded, her neural implant already running combat simulations. The Defiant was officially a patrol vessel, but like all ships in the United Earth Fleet, it carried technologies that most species would consider impossible or magical. Battle stations, she ordered calmly. But maintain emissions control. Let's see what they do first. The alien fleet moved with predatory grace, spreading out in a textbook envelopment pattern. Their confidence was obvious. They clearly expected no real resistance from what their sensors likely showed as a single, relatively small vessel. They're broadcasting, Rodriguez reported. Universal Translation Matrix is processing. Got it. A harsh voice filled the bridge. Attention, inferior vessel. This system is now claimed by the Corvin Imperium. Submit to immediate boarding and classification, or be destroyed. You have 1 standard minute to comply. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Defiant might look conventional to alien sensors, but appearances could be deceiving. Humanity had learned long ago that the path to technological advancement wasn't always about raw power or size. All hands, she broadcast shipwide. Prepare for combat. Initiate Prometheus Protocol. Throughout the ship, crew members interface directly with their stations through neural links. The distinction between human and machine began to blur as the Defiant's quantum computer core merged with the collective consciousness of its crew. They're charging weapons, Rodriguez reported. Energy signatures are massive. Let them fire first, Sarah ordered. Then show them why humanity doesn't build big ships anymore. The Corvin fleet opened fire simultaneously, a devastating barrage that would have atomized any conventional vessel. But the Defiant wasn't conventional. Microseconds before impact, its hull seemed to ripple like water. The incoming fire passed through spaces where solid matter had been nanoseconds before, guided by the merged consciousness of ship and crew operating at quantum speeds. Target their propulsion systems, Sarah commanded, deploying stingers. Dozens of tiny drones, each no larger than a human hand, emerged from the Defiant's hull. They accelerated at impossible speeds, their quantum fields allowing them to ignore most laws of physics. The Corvin ships tried to track them but failed. The drones were operating on principles their sensors couldn't comprehend. The first signs of panic appeared in the alien fleet as systems began failing across their ships. The Stinger drones hadn't attacked with conventional weapons. They had rewritten the quantum states of critical components, turning engine cores into inert matter and weapons into modern art. They're attempting to retreat, Webb reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. 3 vessels have lost all power. Sarah opened a channel to the alien fleet. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Defiant. Your ships are disabled, and your weapons are useless. The Corvin Imperium has made a significant miscalculation today. Humanity is not prey, and we are not inferior. We are offering you 1 chance to surrender and open diplomatic channels. The alternative will be considerably less pleasant. The response was immediate, but not what she expected. 2 of the Corvin ships suddenly turned their weapons on their own allies, while others began broadcasting surrender signals. Interesting, Sarah mused. Looks like not everyone in their fleet agrees with their orders. As the chaos unfolded before them, Sarah reflected that this was how first contact scenarios often played out for humanity. Other species saw their relatively small ships and assumed technological inferiority. They never stopped to consider why humans built their vessels that way, or what it meant that humanity had spread across dozens of systems with such a seemingly modest fleet. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't the size of their ships or the power of their weapons. It was their ability to imagine possibilities that other species considered impossible and then make them real. The hidden edge. The aftermath of the initial confrontation revealed more about the Corvin than their first aggressive display. As Sarah interfaced with the Defiant's quantum core to oversee the boarding operations, she began to understand why some of the alien ships had turned against their own. "They're a collective, Captain," Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported from the science lab. Her consciousness merged with the ship's sensors as she studied their captives. But not a willing one. Their neural architecture shows signs of forced synchronization. The Corvin crews were being systematically integrated into their ship systems, but unlike humanity's voluntary neural interfaces, theirs were crude and coercive. The revelation sent ripples of disgust through the Defiant's merged consciousness. Their entire empire is built on technological enslavement, Commander Webb added, his thoughts carrying traces of the data he was processing. The ships that turned, their integration systems were failing. They seized the chance to break free. Sarah directed her attention to the quantum display, watching as her crew helped the freed Corvin adjust to their restored autonomy. The aliens were humanoid, with iridescent scales and multiple pupils that suggested evolution under binary stars. But it was their technology that truly captured her interest. The Corvin ships were masterpieces of brute force engineering. Every problem was solved with more power, more mass, more raw material. They built huge because they didn't understand small. Their neural integration technology was similarly unsubtle, direct connections forced into unwilling minds. They never discovered quantum consciousness, Dr. Tanaka observed. They're trying to replicate our capabilities through mechanical means. Sarah nodded, feeling the ship's agreement resonating through their shared neural space. Humanity had taken a different path. Instead of forcing technology to conform to their needs, they had learned to adapt themselves to work in harmony with the quantum nature of reality. The Defiant wasn't just a ship, it was a consensual fusion of human consciousness and quantum computing, allowing operations that appeared impossible to species that relied on conventional physics. Every crew member was there by choice, their minds linked but distinct, each contributing to the greater whole while maintaining their individuality. "Captain," Rodriguez's thoughts carried urgency. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple quantum disturbances. The Corvin Imperium is responding to our intervention. The tactical display shifted, showing dozens of massive ships entering the system. But Sarah remained calm, even as she felt her crew's battle readiness through their shared connection. The incoming fleet was about to learn the same lesson as their predecessors. Size wasn't everything. "Release the quantum seeds," she ordered. Microscopic particles of engineered matter streamed from the Defiant's hull, each containing a fraction of the ship's consciousness. As they spread through space, they began to alter reality at the quantum level. The massive Corvin ships found themselves fighting against space itself as fundamental forces became unpredictable. "Their neural integration systems are destabilizing," Webb reported with grim satisfaction. "The quantum field disruption is cascading through their forced connections." Sarah opened a channel to all frequencies. "Attention Corvin vessels. Your neural enslavement technology has been compromised. Your crews are breaking free. You have a choice: continue this fight and lose everything, or accept that your way of doing things is over." The response came in waves of chaos as ship after ship reported crews breaking free of their neural bonds. The massive fleet began to fragment as newly liberated Corvin turned against their former masters. "Send the diplomatic package," Sarah instructed. "Show them how we do neural integration." Show them what's possible when technology serves consciousness instead of trying to enslave it. As the data transferred, Sarah reflected on humanity's journey to this point. They had discovered quantum consciousness integration almost by accident, an unexpected outcome of early neural interface experiments. It had changed everything. Their technology, their society, their very understanding of what was possible. The Corvin Imperium had built its power on the enslavement of minds to machines. Now they were facing a species that had learned to dance with quantum reality itself, and their paradigm was crumbling in the face of that truth. The Corvin Imperium had built its power on the enslavement of minds to machines. Now they were facing a species that had learned to dance with quantum reality itself, and their paradigm was crumbling in the face of that truth. Counterattack. The quantum ripples of liberation spread through Corvin space like wildfire. Within days, the news of what had happened at New Eden reached the core worlds of the Imperium. Sarah and the Defiant found themselves at the center of a revolution they hadn't intended to start. The Imperium's control structure is fracturing. Commander Webb reported, his consciousness threading through the quantum intelligence networks they'd established with the freed Corvin ships. Their entire military rely on forced neural integration, now that their crews know there's an alternative. Sarah accessed the tactical overview through her neural link, watching as the rebellion spread. The Corvin leadership was responding with predictable brutality, sending their remaining loyal forces to crush the uprising. But they were fighting a war they didn't understand. They still think this is about military strength, she mused, feeling the agreement of her crew ripple through their shared consciousness. They haven't realized it's already over. The Defiant's quantum seeds had done more than just disrupt the Corvin's neural control systems. They had shown their enslaved crews a glimpse of true consciousness integration, of what was possible when minds worked in harmony with quantum reality. It was knowledge that couldn't be unlearned. Captain Rodriguez's thoughts carried a mix of concern and excitement. We're receiving a priority transmission from Fleet Command. The Council has made their decision. Sarah accessed the transmission directly through her neural interface. The message was brief but profound. Humanity was officially taking sides in the Corvin Civil War. Not through direct military intervention, but by offering their quantum consciousness technology to any Corvin who wanted to be free. Send the package to all liberated ships, she ordered. Full specifications for voluntary neural integration, quantum consciousness protocols, everything. Let's show them what real cooperation looks like. The effect was immediate and devastating to the Imperium's power structure. Corvin ships across their territory began upgrading their systems, replacing forced neural bonds with voluntary quantum integration. The distinction proved revolutionary. Willing minds working in harmony were exponentially more effective than enslaved ones. Multiple Imperium battle groups approaching, Webb announced. They're trying to contain the spread of information. Sarah smiled, feeling the Defiant systems harmonize with her intent. Let's give them a demonstration that they won't forget. Initiate Operation Butterfly. The Defiant's quantum field expanded, encompassing nearby liberated Corvin vessels. Through their shared consciousness network, Sarah guided them in the principles of quantum warfare. The massive Imperium ships found themselves facing opponents that seemed to ignore basic physics, appearing and disappearing at will as they shifted through quantum states. Their targeting systems can't handle quantum probability shifts, Rodriguez reported with satisfaction. They're firing at where we were, or might be, or could be, but never where we actually are. The battle, if it could be called that, was embarrassingly one-sided. The Imperium ships, for all their size and power, were fighting with the equivalent of stone tools against quantum computers. Their crews, still trapped in crude neural interfaces, couldn't react fast enough to quantum state changes they couldn't even detect. Broadcast on all frequencies, Sarah commanded. Show them what they're really facing. Through the quantum network, they transmitted the experience of true consciousness integration. The freedom, the harmony, the exponential expansion of possibility. It wasn't just tactical data. It was a fundamental paradigm shift that rendered the Imperium's entire approach to technology obsolete. One by one, the Imperium ships went silent as their crews broke free, their forced neural bonds shattering in the face of a superior alternative. The revolution wasn't being won through violence, but through the simple demonstration of a better way. The breaking point. Deep within the Corvin Imperium's capital system, the ruling council faced the unthinkable. Their empire of 1,000 years was unraveling not through military defeat, but through an idea they couldn't quarantine. Supreme Commander Vextal, his scales dulled with age and stress, watched the quantum data streams with mounting horror. These humans, he rasped to the assembled council, they'd done something far worse than defeat our fleets. They've infected our people with hope. Aboard the Defiant, Sarah Chen monitored the quantum consciousness network as it expanded exponentially through Corvin space. The liberated ships weren't just adopting human technology. They were evolving it, combining their own unique perspectives with quantum integration in ways humanity hadn't imagined. They're creating something new, Dr. Tanaka observed, her thoughts tinged with academic excitement. The fusion of Corvin collective instincts with quantum consciousness. It's beautiful. But beauty had a price. The Imperium's response was brutal and desperate. Unable to trust their own military forces, the Council activated their doomsday protocols. Massive automated drone fleets, operated by primitive AIs incapable of quantum consciousness, deployed throughout their territory. They're targeting civilian populations, Commander Webb reported grimly, trying to force submission through terror. Sarah felt the ripple of anger through the quantum network, not just from her crew, but from thousands of liberated Corvin. The network itself seemed to pulse with shared emotion, and in that moment, she realized they had created something unprecedented, a true meeting of minds across species boundaries. All ships, all stations, she broadcast through the quantum link. Prepare for Operation Singularity. The response came not just from the Defiant's crew, but from every connected consciousness in the network. Humans and Corvin, ships and stations, all synchronized in purpose while maintaining their individuality. It was everything the Imperium had tried to force through neural enslavement, achieved instead through voluntary cooperation. The drone fleets never stood a chance. Against conventional opponents, their overwhelming numbers might have prevailed. But they faced an enemy operating on quantum levels, their actions coordinated at speeds that made light seem sluggish. Every drone's movement was predicted and countered before it began. The Council is evacuating the capital, Rodriguez reported. They're activating something massive in the system's core. Energy readings are off the charts. The quantum network revealed the Council's final gambit, a vast machine built into their star itself, designed to trigger a premature nova. If they couldn't control their empire, they would destroy it entirely. They still don't understand, Sarah thought through the network. They think this is about territory, about control. They haven't realized that physical space stopped being the primary battlefield the moment we linked consciousness across quantum states. As the star-killing device powered up, the combined human and Corvin quantum network responded with elegant simplicity. Instead of trying to destroy or disable the machine, they simply shifted its quantum state sideways, phasing it into a parallel probability where it could harm no one. The Council's final weapon disappeared without drama or explosion, transformed by fundamental forces they had never bothered to understand. In its wake, they faced not conquering armies or vengeful forces, but their own people, freed from neural slavery and linked in ways their crude technology could never have achieved. Broadcast a final message, Sarah ordered, feeling the agreement of countless minds through the network. Show them what they're really facing. Through every quantum-linked system in Corvin space, the truth became unavoidable. Their empire hadn't been defeated. It had been transcended. Their people weren't rebelling. They were evolving. And humanity hadn't come as conquerors, but as catalysts for a transformation that had always been possible, if only they had looked beyond the limits of forced control. Evolution's children. 3 months after the fall of the Corvin Council, Sarah Chen stood in the great hall of what had once been the Imperial Palace. The massive chamber had been transformed, its harsh military aesthetics softened by flowing quantum displays that represented the ever-expanding consciousness network linking human and Corvan space. It's still hard to believe how quickly everything changed, Commander Webb said, his physical voice strange after so many weeks of quantum communication. The historic nature of the occasion had prompted many to temporarily step back from the network, experiencing it through traditional senses. Quick, Dr. Tanaka laughed softly. We just witnessed an entire civilization restructure itself at the quantum level. There's nothing quick about that. We're just finally operating at the speed of thought rather than bureaucracy. Sarah watched as representatives from both species filed into the chamber. The Corvan no longer wore the uniform armor of the Imperium, instead adorning themselves with crystalline structures that pulsed in harmony with the quantum network. Their scales had taken on new patterns, physical manifestations of their enhanced consciousness. The network is evolving faster than we anticipated, Rodriguez reported, interfacing with the primary quantum core. The Corvan collective instinct, when freely expressed through quantum consciousness, it's creating patterns we never imagined possible. Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of it through her own connection to the network. Humanity had discovered quantum consciousness integration, but the Corvan were taking it in new directions, their natural inclination toward collective action, freed from the crude constraints of forced neural bonding, was opening doors that humans hadn't even known existed. We're receiving the first transmissions from the deep space probes, Webb announced. The quantum network's effects are being detected by other civilizations. They're curious. On the massive display dominating the chamber center, data streams showed dozens of alien species observing the unprecedented changes in what had been Corvan space. Some with fear, others with fascination, but all recognizing that something fundamental had shifted in the galaxy's balance of power. They're expecting us to establish a new empire, former Supreme Commander Vextal observed, his once dulled scales now iridescent with quantum patterns. After the Council's fall, he had been among the first to embrace the new way, his military experience providing valuable insights into the transition. They don't understand that we're building something entirely different. Sarah stepped onto the central platform, feeling the attention of every mind in the chamber, both physical and quantum-linked. The age of empires is over, she declared, her words carrying through both conventional sound and quantum resonance. We are not creating a new power structure. We are transcending the very concept of hierarchical control. Through the quantum network, she shared her vision of the future. Not a human empire or a Corvan collective, but a fluid quantum democracy where consciousness itself was the medium of exchange, where ideas and experiences flowed freely across species boundaries, each mind contributing its unique perspective to the greater whole, while maintaining its essential individuality. We are evolution's children, she continued, all of us, human, Corvan, and those yet to join us. We have moved beyond the crude tools of force and domination. The quantum consciousness network isn't a weapon or a means of control. It's a bridge between minds, between species, between different ways of experiencing reality itself. The chamber resonated with shared understanding as both humans and Corvan felt the truth of her words through their quantum connection. The network was already spreading, carrying with it not conquest or submission, but the simple, revolutionary idea that consciousness could be shared without being surrendered. The real question, Dr. Tanaka mused, her thoughts rippling through the quantum field, is not what we've become, but what we will be. She gestured to the deep space readings, showing the attention of countless civilizations. We've opened a door that can never be closed. Quantum consciousness integration isn't just a technology. It's the next step in the evolution of thought itself. As if in response to her words, the quantum network pulsed with new connections. The first tentative links from other species, drawn by the possibility of something greater than empire or alliance. They were witnessing the birth of a new form of civilization, one based not on territory or power, but on the infinite potential of shared consciousness. Sarah felt the immensity of the moment through the network, the collective anticipation of minds both human and alien contemplating possibilities that had never before existed. The Defiant's first encounter with the Corvin hadn't just prevented an invasion or toppled an empire. It had sparked an evolutionary leap in how sentient beings could interact with each other and reality itself. The future was unfolding not in years or decades, but in the instantaneous connections of quantum-linked minds. And in that crystalline moment of shared awareness, both humanity and their former adversaries recognized that they had become something new, pioneers not of space, but of consciousness itself, blazing a trail into realms of existence that no empire had ever imagined possible.